Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and I am your host, and joining me this week, as always, are my go-to podcast compadres, Mr. Joe Lever.
Howdy-ho, Jimmy.
Howdy-ho, and Mr. Levi Fletcher.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
There he is. Oh, my gosh. Levi, are you moving house there? What's going on in the background?
Yeah, we're in the process of replacing some carpet before we leave. So.
Oh, I thought it looks like you're building bunk beds or something. More
Yeah.
room for, activities. I like it. Yeah, well, thank you, boys, for joining me here. And thank you, everybody who's listening out there and kind of following us along with some more Star Wars. Because as you've seen for the title this time, we're talking about Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which I'll tell you guys right now, coming out in 1999, even as a kid, I thought, what happened? I thought we were going forward. It was like we're dropping back. So now we're doing episode 1, and which is set. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Maybe 40 years or 30 years or something like that, roughly. Maybe 40 years between that and like A New Hope or something like that. But we're going to kind of go through it because actually Joe has never seen these before, but we're going to kind of give some feelings or thoughts, broad thoughts at first. And I think we're going to start with Levi this time. Now, Levi, again, you and I saw this. We were pretty young, a little bit nostalgic, but how do you feel about it now, watching it back?
I think some of the performances still hold up really well. I literally just watched it, and yeah, some of the performances are also detractors too. Plus, I know you can tell at the time that it was marveled for its like new style and graphics and stuff, but I don't know if it's aged well.
Sure. So, like, which performances do you like and which ones don't you like?
Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, so good. Worst performances are Jar Jar Binks and Anakin and Padme.
Really? Oh, I feel like Anakin's not too bad, but he's a kid. It's hard. Kid acting.
No, sorry, Jake Lloyd. I mean, he's gone on record saying he doesn't really like being associated with that either. So.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Anything else you want to say?
Good.
I was gonna say. I was like, oh, good. Well, at least, but you're being honest. That's what's good. Is there any other broad kind of feelings you have towards it before we get into more of Joe's specific thoughts?
I wish it was, it could be updated because it's the very first movie, right? It is skippable though. That is true. It doesn't really. I guess it stands on its own, but if you were ever going to watch the series, you could probably skip it. Sure.
I guess I understand that. Any other standouts before?
Not really. No, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just am not a fan of Natalie Portman very much. So
yeah, it's kind of a little.
She's very dry. Very dry.
Yeah, and I think that was a conscious decision. I'm not exactly sure why, but yeah, there's a lot of that in her. Like, her
she's a queen. I get it, but
I know you're right. Joe, I kind of want to quote you here if you don't mind, and let me know if I've kind of screwed this up. But when he talked to you the other day, you're like, I watched it, and you're like, after watching the original trilogy, you said it has gotten so much better and so much worse. I want you to expand on that because I think that's like a really interesting phrase, and I don't know, you might be right, but what do you think about this?
What's the name of the floppy-eared dumb thing?
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Him and all his brethren.
Amen.
Like, whoever came up with that excellent idea needs to be shot in the temple.
You know what's so funny? Like, not to interrupt you, but I just was watching a little bit of behind the scenes, and George Lucas is like, oh, Jar Jar's got to work. He's got to work. And it's like, he didn't at all.
Yeah, it's too bad because I think their original plan, and I could be wrong about this, but the rumor going around is that he was going to, like, Jar Jar was going to be Yoda, but like a Sith Lord. Like, they were going to, it was the same kind of idea of like if you met, like in medieval fantasy, if you met like a little creature on the side of the road, like you wouldn't think much of it, but it might have a big impact in the world. And that was kind of the thought, and people, I think, at the time, and still probably to some degree, people didn't resonate, that performance didn't resonate with them. And they just kind of scrapped him. So later on, Joe, you'll see a very reduced role for Jar Jar Binks in the future, like barely talking, like he's just there.
Like,
but
probably has another 5 lines throughout the whole next 2 movies.
Yeah, so. Probably just about. But yeah, okay. So Joe, you didn't like the Gungans. That's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And what else? What else do you feel? What else things stood out, good or bad?
Darth Maul was kind of cool. Didn't talk, was just there and posing and all.
Yeah.
was kind of a big letdown. Like, oh, he just gets chopped in half and thrown down a pipe.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty freaking lame. Padme going back and forth, the stunt double switching stuff. I got why they did it, and it was cool and all. Sometimes, which was that Keira Knightley, by the way?
I think so. Levi, can you confirm?
I'll confirm that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, as a kid too, that confused the hell out of me.
But yeah,
Seriously.
especially later on when like Natalie Portman storms in and like gets the Viceroy, and then he's like, "No, it's a double," but it's actually still like Padme still is the real queen. So she kind of tricked him again. But even as a child, I was like, "Wait, who's the?" I'm confused, guys. I don't.
Yeah, it was Knightley. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it was Knightley.
Yeah. Okay. But I don't know. So Joe, not necessarily a huge fan of Padme.
Joe, you liked the Gungan city though, right? That was cool. Like where they come from.
Yeah, for the time, I'm sure that was pretty mind-boggling. I mean, now we have things like Atlantis off of Aquaman and stuff to
Yeah.
reference, but I mean, it was still well done. I think it was cool little deal. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, what was so special about this movie? I like the speed racing stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk about Bunta Eve specifically because I thought that was something that you might enjoy, Joe, and I think that was one of the biggest promotional things from this movie, besides like the droids in the Gungan city. It was like, oh my gosh, look at this pod race, and obviously the lightsaber duels, but like besides that, it was like that sequence I think still is pretty good. Like, like it has a speed and a violence to it. Like people are dying just left and right just the whole time.
Yeah,
Just like,
yeah, it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't know. Some of the characters are still, as per usual, a little ridiculous. Like just crazy.
That's typical for Star Wars. You should realize that by now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, lightsaber stuff and whatnot, they actually get used in this one.
yeah, like right off the bat too, right? They just start cutting droids down.
Yeah, I love when he's got it stuck into that vault door or whatever, the blast doors, and he's like trying to melt through it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you like the force dash away from the droidicas, like the destroyer droids, like the shield?
Yeah, I didn't realize that they could force dash, the force jump stuff and whatnot.
They never do it again.
Yeah, it's very good.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, as a whole, I enjoyed it. It was, a little more actiony, which I liked. A little more fast paced, which I liked. The blue flying thing, the junker guy, kind of freaked me out a little.
Oh, you're talking about Watto.
Yeah, a little bit.
He didn't like him.
It's like the worst Muppet ever.
He's
CGI.
I was gonna say that, but it doesn't. Joe doesn't distinguish.
Yeah,
it's a Muppet to him.
Doesn't matter.
What didn't you like about it though? Because you said you liked it a lot more, but then also not as much, maybe.
No, I mean, I think I liked it more than the other ones.
Okay.
Just for the action of it and some of the characters. I think Darth Maul, I know they're going places and all, but I feel like slightly underutilized. Could have been so much cooler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the criticisms you get from that first movie too is that so many people liked him just for his look and style that a lot of, or the hope was kind of he could have been a main villain throughout, and then he would have kind of had a rivalry with Obi-Wan, and then in episode 3 he would have still been around, and Obi could have fought him instead of the people he ends up fighting in that movie. That would have been pretty cool. I think that would have been sweet.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I feel like that was kind of like chintzy in the long run.
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't know, they didn't really capitalize on that. A character that I just think from that style and aesthetic and just vibe that you get from him, I think he would have been a good feature throughout. So
yeah,
whatever, they did what they did, but I don't know. trying to think of other things to pick out on this thing.
That's fine. You can come back to it. I mean, I can always.
The major battle in the end with Jar Jar. I mean, to a certain degree, I just eventually get sick of Jar Jar. Like, it's like Marvel when they do comedic things. It's like lines and well written stuff.
Yeah.
This is just like, oh, he's a blubber and buffoon and fucks up everything he does, and it's like, was somebody either got lazy or somebody's imagination?
I think the idea was there. To have like a goofy like comic relief character. I think the idea was there, and Jar Jar could have actually been pretty cool if they had not made it such a slapstick character.
I think there's a real purpose behind it, because I think you look at this movie and it's very political and mature in some aspects, but then they also try to do like kind of all the kiddie joke stuff too. I think that's why Jar Jar was there, is to kind of be like, oh, it's still a movie for kids, but they're like, but there's all this kind of weird like trade federation, like taxes and factoids about this, and I feel like it's like a movie of two parts, and that's why they tried to go super heavy on Jar Jar with his little jokes, because it was like just to keep the kids entertained, because while they're all debating in the Senate, you're like, and then they shoot to Jar Jar doing something stupid, and you're like,
Even George said during like a test screening with the audience, he was like, I might have gone too far in some areas, because in one scene you're remembering Fallen Hero, and then 90 seconds later it's Jar Jar freaking out again, and it's like, whoa, the whiplash,
Sure. Yeah, you mean like with the Qui-Gon stuff at the end?
Yeah, like Qui-Gon like literally just dies, and then all of a sudden it's like Jar Jar freaking out again. It's like whiplash.
Oh, well, that's what at the end it's like they go to the peace thing though, like the parade, like they show Qui-Gon dead, and then they do the peace thing. They should have probably saved that death burning thing for like the very end. Sort of been like, also I love this too. You start to see how like horrible the Jedi are in this movie. And Joe, I don't know if you kind of got that too, but they're like so just like, nope, don't want this guy in here. You got to listen to us. And Qui-Gon's kind of like a rebel. And I think that, I don't know, it endears me a lot to Qui-Gon, where he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to kind of do whatever I want to do. And they're like, fine. Like, they just give up. There's like, you know what? Eventually they're just like, whatever, dude. Like, I don't know. You got other problems. Go figure out Darth Maul first. But I love that even like they're scaring the poor kid. They're like, oh, we sense you're really afraid. It's like, yeah, you took him from his mom and you're asking him all these questions. And they're like, we sense a lot of fear in you. And he's like, yeah, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't. How did you feel about the Jedi sequences, like the Council?
For some reason, I feel like having Samuel Jackson as part of these movies was dumb.
Whoa, expand on it, please.
I don't know. Back then, maybe it wasn't as big of a deal. Well, he had been in some stuff before this. I mean, this is 1999, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. But, I associate him with some stuff that I don't know.
He hasn't shined yet. Give him a chance. You'll see him do some cool shit coming up here. So
Okay, sure. So I don't know. The Council otherwise, I mean, it is what it is.
Do you like CG Yoda better or worse than Puppet Yoda?
I think he was pretty well done in this.
Because they used to have a puppet that they digitally took out of this one and put him in instead.
Shit ever.
It was very scary. It was pretty scary. So I was wondering how you'd like this guy.
Kill you in my sleep, I will.
Yeah, because he looked good in this one. I think it was well done.
It's funny. I forgot about this. I didn't remember that he talks a lot like he does in Empire and in Return of the Jedi. But Joe, you'll notice, kind of moving forward in episode 2 and 3 a little bit more, they kind of change him up. He's not as kooky. Like this one, he's still kind of kooky, but you'll get less of that in the other ones. He gets like very serious. And I don't know, Levi, did you remember that too? Like he seems weird, like in 2 and 3 compared to now 1 through like 4 and 5, and I should say 5 and 6.
Well, I feel like 1, he's kind of cranky, and then 2 and 3, he feels almost like just getting super old.
Sure.
So yeah, like the later ones, like Empire stuff, he's like more senile. So
yeah, I just feel like he's senile in this one though. Again, a little bit too when he's like talking to Obi, like he's kind of going around with this little cane, and he's like, I just think
he's mad and he's conflicted because he's like, I can't see this kid's future. It's gonna be the death of us, but we can't can't tell right now.
Like, it's so funny that the council, like, I feel like the council is mostly just Yoda and Mace, because, like, Yoda will look at Mace and they'll be like, we've made a decision.
Yeah.
Or Yoda's like, the council doesn't back you up on this. And Obi's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Qui-Gon died, and I said I'd teach him. But he's like, the council will allow it. It's like, he just backpedals immediately. It's like,
well, it's surprising. Like, I guess I haven't really noticed it before, but yeah, the Jedi are super fucking yuppie in this.
oh my gosh, they get worse and worse, dude.
I guess I just never noticed that as a kid, because you're like, oh, they're Jedi, they're so cool. But
Yeah.
now it's like, oh man, you really do deserve to die.
Yeah, that's what George Lucas
Maybe that's
said.
the point.
Yeah,
right?
he said that. He said that this trilogy is supposed to be not only Anakin's rise to becoming Darth Vader, but also the fallacies and the wrongdoings of the Jedi. And I think that's interesting, because as kids, you know, you're brought up to think, you're like, oh, the Jedi are the good guys. They always do good things. But you start to, like, get these feelings of, like, oh, like, especially in this trilogy, like, wow, maybe they're not, like, the nicest people in the galaxy, right? Kind of creepy. Kind of mean sometimes, too.
Yeah, because Anakin's the chosen one who will bring balance to the galaxy or whatever by killing all the Jedi, getting rid of that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They think, like, it's to get rid of the Sith, but it's like, no, it's to keep the Jedi in check, because there's a rule of 2 for the Sith, Joe, where they're going to only be a master and apprentice. And there's just like 500 Jedi, so
yeah, maybe even more than that. Jeez, there's so many.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, and I also love, and you'll see this later on with Anakin too, Joe. But one little kind of screw you to the Jedi is they always wear their brown robes, like you've seen Obi-Wan do in the past. But you notice that Qui-Gon's is like really dark brown, almost kind of like black. And you'll see that with somebody else soon, too, where you're like, oh, that's kind of like their way of being like, yeah, I'm on the council, but I'm kind of more of a rebel. Like, you know, I'm kind of in the middle, not fully just like, I just do whatever the light side, you know, says. And Levi, you mentioned Liam Neeson's performance. I think his performance might be the best in the whole movie. I think he gets a lot to work with. I don't think Ewan McGregor gets as much to work with. But Joe, did you like Liam Neeson? Because he's one of the factors, I think, in this first movie that people tend to kind of gravitate toward. And I was curious if you liked him.
Yeah, of all of the characters thus far, he's the one I like the most, for sure.
Yeah, he's cool. Did you like his relationship? Did you like seeing young Obi-Wan? That's my other question too.
There's not too much there. I don't think they accentuate it so much. Yeah. Granted, Obi-Wan's upset when he dies and all, but whatever.
Which we do need to talk about that. This movie is not a huge departure from it, but this movie is the start of these highly coordinated and choreographed lightsaber fights, which I think Levi and I could talk at length about. But Joe, going from Return of the Jedi and even just like A New Hope, going to this type of lightsaber battle, did you like it? Was it too much? Did you want more? How do you feel?
No, I mean, the more the better, as long as they don't screw it up. Keep making it look good, and you're all right.
Did it look too overly choreographed to you? Did it look like it was practiced
a little
too
bit?
Much?
Sometimes it looks like a little bit of dancing. Like I even noticed in the way Darth Maul moves, sometimes it was a little dancey.
Yes, and I think that was on purpose, but I could see where you'd think that, because he does kind of
like ballet style, and
yeah.
He kind of like dances backwards and spins and looks back at him, and
yeah,
I don't know, stuff like that is like, do a real sword fight,
Yeah, Levi, you this is probably your favorite lightsaber fight, is that right, or am I wrong about that?
It's one of them.
Okay.
Maybe not the favorite.
Do you still like it as much as you used to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like one of the best reasons to rewatch this movie. It's a payoff for a pretty chummy movie going through.
Yeah, which I don't know, like I remember being like a longer cut where it was like the Duel of the Fates was playing in the background, that music, but they kind of cut back to like Padme and everybody storming, Naboo, and they also shoot up to Anakin, who's just kind of lucking his way through that fight. Which I don't know, Joe, I'm not going to speak for you, but how did you feel about him and his little speeder, or not his speeder, but his little spaceship blowing up everything, just kind of being like, oh, that worked out,
I don't know. I mean, it was pretty predictable. You saw it coming when he sat in the cockpit, and I didn't know that's what happened, but I kind of saw it coming, I guess. It was fun.
Yeah, you're fine with that? Okay. Yeah,
and R2D2 in his first appearance.
Yeah, which I was the droids too, to realize that Darth Vader built C-3PO. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's like, okay, so there is a significance to C-3PO besides being annoying.
Yeah, which comparatively to Jar Jar now, I don't know how much if C-3PO is still the worst for you, or if Jar Jar takes it, or whatever else.
Jar Jar takes it, like, just stupid character, but C-3PO, like, I get, but to a certain extent. You know, now that there's something established for him where he came from, kind of a thing, maybe I can appreciate him a little more. Chewie and his damn screeching all the time. That's probably the worst.
I can't believe you don't like Chewie.
You didn't miss that. I don't like Chewie either, Joe. So I'm right there with you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine and all. You know, don't piss off a Wookiee and whatnot. But damn.
I think it's not even Chewie that bothers me. It's people's trying to like impersonate him, like the fans trying to impersonate him, and it's like, ugh, Jesus.
Just all that. Shut up.
That's how he communicates.
Learn English, you dumbass.
Okay. He means common, but it's still the same. I guess my last question before I kind of dive in a little more for both of you, and Levi, you kind of touched on it too. Like I said, we were talking about the politics earlier. Did you guys, like, I think as an older viewer, I could appreciate it more, but as a kid, I remember thinking, like,
yes,
I don't know what's going on.
There was
like,
so many times I had to rewatch this movie as a kid, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Like, the trade routes have been blocked. I'm like, what? Like, it's really weird. Joe, did you like this, or were you not a fan of how they kind of set this one and framed it?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really realize what was going on, the whole trade agreement thing originally.
Sure.
But I don't know. Eventually, I guess I put it together.
Sure.
What are you asking?
I'm asking, did you like how it was framed, like the whole political side of this film?
Oh, yeah. I mean, good example of how things are done in America.
Sure. That was...
oh, Jesus. All right.
Ain't no shit getting done around here, yo.
We're not that kind of channel.
Yeah, no. So you liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the political back alley stuff, you know, and what's his name being the Sith Lord and all that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Somebody made a really good reference to him in this prequel trilogy as being, there's the first short that I think Pixar, one of the first ones they ever did, was like an old man playing chess against himself in a park. And that's what Palpatine kind of is in this. He's like, I am the leader of this group, and I'm also the leader of this group. And he's kind of like playing a shadow game of chess against himself. He's like, well, good move, me. And he's like, I'll counter it, me. Like, you know, that's kind of his thing. I like seeing him
using Padme to get his seat in the Senate, or to become Supreme Chancellor and all. I mean, smart.
Yeah, it's
I
very
enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's smart. You're like, oh, he's working his way up, and then it kind of gives you more of an appreciation when you see him in Return of the Jedi of like all the stuff he's had to do to get to this point, because you'll see that stuff and you'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like Ian McDiarmid. I like seeing him in this one. It's not enough of him. I think he's great, and he gets better and better as time goes on. I do want to hop back to the lightsaber thing, just kind of touch on it for a second myself. I like this fight. This might be my second favorite, maybe of any lightsaber duel. It's pretty good. I kind of wish they had like a bigger focus on it, but man, I love the over-the-top stuff. I like the crazy fighting, and I like how dangerous it feels. Like at any second, somebody could die. Like, you know, because they're spinning stuff around so fast, and the noise and everything. I love it, especially when Obi is one-on-one with him. I'm like, ooh, and he like cuts his blade in half and he kicks him. I'm like, oh, that's brutal. And Qui-Gon backhands Maul. I forgot about that. He like backhands him at one point. I was like, what?
Is it the last time we see a dual-bladed lightsaber?
Rise of Skywalker, yes.
Yeah, I don't think we see another dual-bladed lightsaber. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, not for like. Yeah, for an extended period of time, Joe, it's the last time we see one in the main story like this. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, do they bring Darth Maul back at the Rise of Skywalker?
Spoiler alert, everybody. No, they don't. He just jumps in there. He's like, which I feel like his weapon, it's cool, but also scary, because like half the time I feel like he's using it and trying not to hit himself. Like he's spinning it around. He's like, look at how scary this is. And in his mind, he's like, I better not screw this up. Like one swing the wrong way to be like, what?
Nunchuck, like
Yeah. Which I like the dual-sided lightsaber. I'm more of like you take two single lightsabers and use them. I just feel like I'd be more proficient that way. I'm
It's
not
more
Darth Maul.
practical.
Yeah, and I think fighting two combatants would be so hard with like one weapon like that. But I like how they do the close-ups on
He
him.
held his own though, real well.
Yeah, I like that moment near the beginning where he's like kind of backed up and he's gonna looks like he's gonna fall, and then Obi does like a feint, and then Qui-Gon goes in for him, and then kind of Darth Maul jumps back. I was like, oh, there's like a cool like those two have fought together clearly before, but then Darth Maul's kind of luring them into a trap like out there. I like that whole thing, and I like Qui-Gon being a Jedi. He just kind of sits down during that shielded moment, and he kind of like gathers himself while Darth Maul just kind of paces back and forth, and he's just kind of checking him out. It's just like it's pure just Jedi versus Sith, and why Obi? I forget. There's a reason Obi didn't use his Force Rush there. Like you wish he could have just Force Rushed into that fight and been like, "I'm here too," but he didn't. I don't know why. He couldn't do it, man.
He did use like the Force to like jump and
he used some mana up. Yeah,
he might have been tapped a little bit.
Yeah. I do. Does anyone feel bad for him that he gets like he loses his master and then just gets an apprentice like very quickly? Like
he loses his lightsaber too.
He loses lightsaber too. Yeah.
So what? Do we ever find out how he gets that back? Like,
makes a new one.
Does he just make a new one?
Qui-Gon's.
No, he you can make a new one. Later on in this trilogy, someone else loses a lightsaber and makes a new one. And I don't know because it used to be like, I think more canon now is like you find a crystal on Ilum and that's like your crystal. But I also think the Jedi have like backup lightsabers. They're like, here's your lightsaber.
Yeah.
Don't have the same connection with it maybe, but yeah. Which reminds me too, this is kind of one of the only times we're going to hear about this, but midi-chlorians talking about like almost power levels in a sense. Levi, I want to start with you about this. Do you like them? Do you hate them? What do you think?
I guess I just don't really care. Okay. Honestly, I was reading an article too that people were like pissed off about it, that it took away like the religion side a little bit about the Force, and it kind of made it seem almost like an infection. But
okay,
not really. Like I just don't care. Like I know that it's touched on briefly here, and then like it's just kind of like whatever.
Sure.
So.
Joe, how about you? Midi-chlorians, kind of like Anakin's power being greater than Yoda's potentially with the Force. Did you like that, or did you not? Did you not need an explanation for why that works?
It was almost like they called it biological now.
Yeah, kind of like the mitochondria or something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Like his cells have a higher content of Force than anyone.
Yeah.
Sure.
You okay with it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
you don't care. This is something that Star Wars fans
in order to identify that he's like OP or whatever. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. I've just heard so many people who were so frustrated, like they didn't, like Levi was saying, they didn't want an explanation. They didn't need like a kind of a scientific thing to this space opera. I think it's fine, but people didn't like it and they just kind of scrapped it. So later on, you don't hear like. In Dragon Ball Z, they did that for a while, and then they get rid of it, where it was like the scouter, like this thing would tell somebody how powerful someone was. So it's not like Anakin's and Obi are going to run to a fight, and they'll be like, he's got like 25,000 midi-chlorian count. Like, you're like, we'll never be able to stop him. They don't do that sort of thing later on, which is probably for the better. But they tried to make the Chosen One seem special with that, which is fine. I think it's better to throw that away and just say like his mom had him and there was no father. Like you could just say that and you're like, whoa, okay.
Hey, yeah. How does that work? What is he, Jesus?
Yeah, so there is that. There's kind of some of that. There was a comic that was going around for a while that apparently it's been misinterpreted, but it's Palpatine and he's like behind Shmi Skywalker, kind of like influencing her. And like maybe he was the one who like made Anakin, but apparently that's not the case. So the idea I think right now is like the Force recognized that there was an imbalance between the Jedi and the Sith and just the Force in general. So it made like a very powerful creature that could kind of balance it all out. So kind of like Jesus. I don't know. It's like, I know what you mean. It's kind of like, I still love that he's the chosen one, because later on, a lot of people think Luke is, but it's not Luke, as you've seen in like the original trilogy. You're like, well, Luke's not the one who brought balance to the Force. Like Vader was like the guy, he was kind of the one doing it. So Yeah, and you'll see that soon, Joe, especially in 3. You'll be like, oh, the balancing act. It's good stuff. Yeah, but so yeah, that's how he was conceived or made. Which, I was thinking about this too. They're both slaves, right? I don't know what they do for work, and I guess I kind of know what Annie does for work, but they had like a pretty, like, I'm not saying they had a great life, but it wasn't too bad. Like, she had her own like apartment.
Really bad. Yeah, like
it was like, he's got his own pod racer that his boss doesn't know about somehow. He's like, I just built it. It's fine.
No,
it's like,
didn't seem all that bad for being called a slave, I guess.
But... And he made C-3PO a British, like, human cyborg's relation robot that could speak over 6 million languages. Like, man, Anakin, he can do whatever he wants. Also, last thing I want to ask you guys about Padme and Anakin, kind of the start of this. What did you think? Did you think it was handled well? Do you like it, or is it just like...
All I can think is that little kid and that 18-year-old almost woman are gonna...
It just seems so weird.
She's 15 in it, I think.
And he's like 7.
And she's 9, or he's 9.
He doesn't look 9, and he doesn't act like a 9-year-old.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He looks
Yeah,
like...
our perception is probably different now that we're older too. I mean, if we were younger, we might see him more as a 9-year-old. Like, I don't know, it's weird. But
even now, it's just awkward. It's like, what? No.
Yeah. Yeah, it is
I think Natalie Portman was 17 or 18 when she filmed that.
Was she?
Yeah, because she's 38 now.
She was a very young queen. I kept thinking about that. I'm like, she's a young queen. Which, by the way, the framing sometimes, especially on her character, like when she's looking out like the window and they do that kind of full body shot, there's like some really cool imagery in this, in this first film here, episode 1, I should say, that I really like and I think is super cool. Like the shot of the, the Gungan city and all that stuff. I really like some of the aesthetics of it, and you can tell that they tried to marry that CGI and try to push the limits, but they didn't. Like, they also tried to do some of the practical stuff. Like, there's some practical explosions and things, so they still tried to do that, and it's fine. But you can, nowadays you can really kind of see the CGI. Like, you're like, oh, clearly that's not a forest floor. Like, you can like, you think it looks like leaves, but you look at it for a second and you're like, it's not. Like, they're not. Yeah, Joe, did the CGI bug you at all besides Watto and Jar Jar?
I had Jar Jar the way he walks.
He walks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, from the cartoon stop motion deal.
Yeah, but did anything else besides those two bother you, or did you like any of it?
I didn't think any of it was bad, in all honesty. The Jar Jar's race or whatever, they were all a little odd, but I mean, for capabilities at the time and mass amounts of CG, they did pretty well.
Yeah, I like those shield generators. You like the shield generators? Those are fun.
That was cool. I actually appreciated the droids quite a bit. I thought they were legit.
Yeah, those
I like the little roly-poly ones.
Dude, yeah, the destroyers. Yeah, those are Levi's favorite. Levi plays those almost exclusively in Battlefront 2. He loves his droidicas.
Yeah, I love them.
He loves to just roll
I think
up.
they're cool. They're a good concept.
The design is sweet too. They're kind of bug-like, but they're scary enough to, like, the Jedi are like, we're not gonna fight these guys. Like, there's like,
well, yeah, they're tough to take down. They have their own little shield deal, and
yeah, it's sad later on when Jar Jar inadvertently takes one out, but it doesn't have like a shield on him. Like, how did he drop one of those things when? I don't know. Jar Jar almost dies about 20 times in that major final. It's like Jar Jar's bad day. It's just like one sequence to the next, and he's like on the barrel of a tank, and he's just like holding on, screaming. It's like, yeah, Joe's gonna hate this part. Like, that battle doesn't have too many stakes. Like, Boss Nass is like, yeah, we're willing to die for it, but I'm not going out there. Just send the Gungans. He's like, yeah, just send them out. I remember they were such a big deal, the Gungans and the droids. Like, people were like, wow, look at these guys. And some of it, I think, looks still pretty good. I was gonna ask you guys about the underwater sequence. What did you think about the whole, like there's always a bigger fish scene? Did you like that? Did you not? Like,
yeah, it was kind of cool. It was a little... It was kind of cool. I almost felt bad.
I remember that part being a lot scarier as a kid.
Well, that one super fish just kills everything, apparently. You just drive past it and kills things, right?
Yeah. I like the design of those creatures. They all look cool.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. I enjoyed them as well.
Yeah, the thing about the big battle and the Jungans or whatever, like I wanted it to be something more impactful. I don't take them seriously or value them as
Sure.
characters in any way. I want something a little more Lord of the Rings esque, I guess.
Sure.
Lord of the Rings esque.
Yeah. I get that. I respect
in
that.
a sense. That way, it carries a little more seriousness and weight. So, what they could have done, I don't know, just a different style character.
Sure. Levi, how do you feel about the droid versus the Gungan stuff at the end? Do you still?
Oh, I like it. I mean, I always remember that being a cool fight scene.
But do you agree with Joe where it's kind of lacking a little bit of like any real stakes because you don't really care about these guys as much?
Well, that and they're just not serious characters.
Yeah.
It's always kind of jokey. Every time you see them in a frame or in a shot, it's like they're just kind of
sure. Maybe I've seen the movie too many times, so I like the Gungans a little bit. I don't care for Jar Jar Binks, but I do like the race. I'm not opposed to the race, so
sure. I feel bad too because I feel like Jar Jar is a full concept of a character, and the guy Ahmed Best who performed that did his best to portray that character and be annoying and be like overly jubilant and just kind of like making big mistakes all the time. But I could see where it does get it is a little grating because it's kind of like you take C-3PO and take that idea of and then just kind of like amplify it, and he's just always following you around, and he's kind of like a really big deal to this plot because he kind of connects both the worlds, and he just happened to be not in the Gungan city at the wrong time, and Qui-Gon saved him. And I forgot about that too, that Qui-Gon uses the mind trick on Boss Nass like 2 or 3 times. I didn't know. I was like, what? Like Liam Neeson does such a good job of subtly just being like, he's like, yeah, you're gonna give us a transport, and he's like, I'm gonna give you a bongo. It's like, whoa. It's like, that's great. And then he tries on Watto. Watto's like, yeah, dude, that stuff doesn't work for me. Money does. He's like, I like money, but I don't need any of that. So I like Liam Neeson. He does a good job in this movie.
I think so.
He's doing work. He says a lot of stuff in this movie. I'm like,
he's got a lot of lines.
He has the most lines I think of anybody.
I wonder if that was like his thing. He's like, you have to provide me with a lot of lines, or I'm like, not fucking.
Plus, he does a good job. They might have had a double for him, but I think he did some of that that training too with the swords, like the lightsabers and stuff. And I really appreciated that. I was like, oh, he's out there, he's working. I was like, he's doing it. Yeah. Darth Maul, do you guys like, maybe it's just now I'm older, I noticed like kind of where they put the spikes on his head. Like, it's cool. It's interesting to see how makeup has changed over time in like 20 years.
That still looks really good though. Like, that still looks real good.
Yeah, but like you can tell that it's obviously not like, it's not like a bald cap that they put those part onto. Joe, did you look at that at all, or were you just like, did you like the kind of the makeup itself?
I remember when he's pacing back and forth looking at Qui-Gon, and I thought he looked good.
Yeah, I like his eyes.
Yeah, practical and all. I think he looked good.
Yeah, he's
compelling
great.
Character. He could.
What's his race called? Zabrax.
Zabrak. Yeah. Yeah. Darth Maul. Interesting. A lot of people love him so much they brought him back to life. He's or not. I don't know how he survived being cut in half, falling down that tube, but. We've just learned in Star Wars, if you fall down a tube, that does not mean you're dead. Double check your kills. Like, you got to do some double tapping, like kill confirms, because there's too many times in Star Wars where it's like, I thought you were dead for sure. And they're like, nope, you didn't do it.
When he has like mechanical legs, like a spider legs, doesn't he?
For a little bit, and then he gets like regular droid legs, like bipedal again. Yeah. Everybody watch Star Wars The Clone Wars. Just find the Darth Maul episodes. Like, the whole show is great, but if you watch the Darth Maul episodes, you get to watch him do some pretty cool stuff. And yeah, he's great. Played by so he was played by, I believe, Ray Park in this one, but then he is voiced by Sam Witwer, who was the guy who was the main character for Force Unleashed. It was like that likeness and everything. So if you like Darth Maul, there might be multiple people that you enjoy, but Sam Witwer is kind of more so known now as playing Darth Maul because he played him in the Clone Wars. He actually voices him, and he's a huge Star Wars fan, and he's a really cool dude.
In the Phantom Menace?
He doesn't play him in the Phantom Menace. Just I think it's Ray Park, who's
gotcha.
He's well known for being he plays Snake Eyes, if you remember from G.I. Joe. And he also was in a season of Heroes, like one of the last seasons of the show Heroes, and he plays an actual character. But he's a really I've actually seen him in person. I didn't get to talk to him, but he was at this kind of or this Star Wars convention thing down in Disney, and he came out and kind of talked about it, and they showed off some of the G.I. Joe stuff, and he's a really, really good and well-known stunt actor. So as you could tell, that's what he doesn't get a lot of lines. Not that Darth Maul needs to talk a lot, but you see him at the end fight, and you're like, oh, okay, he's like doing like the flips and spins and stuff, and you're like, okay, this guy, he knows what he's doing. So
does he even say anything in the movie?
He does. He says, like, he's talking to Sidious back on Coruscant. He's like, finally, we'll be able to reveal ourselves and get our revenge. And he says, like, yes, my master. He says, like, very, very small things. Which it's funny because the Jedi are kind of sent back to Naboo to figure out who this person is, and they don't like ever try to question him. Like, there's never like a, excuse me, sir, we're just looking for your master.
His lack of lines just really add to his mystery,
Sure, yeah, that's why.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I prefer it.
Sure, yeah, I kind of wish he had more to say to them. It would have been cool for him to talk more to
I've
the Jedi.
I don't know if it's canon, but I read a book about like his upbringing, and it's really interesting too. So.
Yeah, he was messed up. He got tortured a ton by Sidious. So, yep, poor Darth Maul. Too bad he couldn't have stuck around after Episode 1 into Episode 2. That would have been sweet. Yeah, that's okay though. It's all right. I like him though.
What do we get after this as far as Sith go?
You'll have to watch to find out. I want to tell you, but I want you to go in and be like, oh, and then have questions and be like, oh, this guy got in here, huh? You'll definitely recognize the next person. You'll be like, oh my gosh, he's a fantastic actor. He's one of the greatest. Yeah, kind of underutilized.
He's a pretty badass Sith too, though,
Oh yeah, he's a cool Sith in his own, and his ties to the Jedi are pretty cool too. That's one of the compelling characters in the next episode, Joe, is you'll start to see like Darth Maul wouldn't have had any probably real good connections to the Jedi Council, but this new bad guy does, and you're like, oh really? Like you start to be like, oh wow, okay, like this is weird. Like it's good.
Jar Jar Binks.
It's Jar Jar.
Is it the weird droid guy with 4 arms?
No, he's not that guy. No. And I'll tell you right now that his name is General Grievous, that guy, Joe, and he is not a Sith or anything.
Or a Jedi.
Or a Jedi. Nope. He was actually a race, like a different race, like a powerful race that I don't know, he had a conflict with the Jedi or the clones or something, and then ended up becoming Grievous, and there's a whole backstory on him. I don't know.
Consciousness into the droid.
No, it's like his actual organs and stuff. He's like a Darth Vader prototype, like 1.0 kind of thing.
He's pretty cool though.
Yeah,
I like General Grievous a lot.
Joe, if you really like this, I'll have you. And I know you're not a fan of animation stuff, but the guys who did Samurai Jack did this small kind of Clone Wars series. And it's kind of anime-esque, but General Grievous is in there, and he moves super fast. He's like a xenomorph with a Terminator, and like it's like ridiculous. Like he'll land on a Jedi and like crush him, like just with his feet. Like it's very cool. It's very cool. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah. But anyway, that's coming up. That's coming up in the future. Let's get back to the rankings and stuff too. Now that we've watched, the original trilogy and episode 1, Levi, where is it sitting for you right now? Where does episode 1 kind of slot in for you?
It's got to be towards the bottom.
Okay.
I would say it is parts of it. If I could take the good parts out, I would say that memory of Phantom Menace would be above anything from 4, 5, or 6. God, that's a hard one.
That's okay. You don't have to rank them specifically.
And like, if I could rate it out of this trilogy, it'd be like the last. It'd be at the bottom for the prequels.
Sure.
So,
Joe, how about you, man? Where does this one slot in? Do you like it more now than the original trilogy?
6, 1, 3, 2.
Oh, so it comes.
6,
so wait.
1, 3, 2.
You haven't seen 3 and 2. You mean 6, 1,
5 and 6.
I'm sorry.
5, 6.
4,
6, 1, 5, 4.
Okay, so it comes in between Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back for you at the top.
Yeah, and reason being, Darth Vader.
Oh, and Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, I like having him present and actually doing something, and
Sure.
Back and forth between Luke and him and all is good. It was a little lackluster, but still I appreciate it.
Sure.
The only redeeming quality that keeps it above this first prequel, because otherwise the movies, with technology and everything, it got better.
Yeah, and that's something that you prioritize probably more so than maybe the characters as much. Like you want it to look better and be more technically proficient.
Yeah, and capture my attention, and like I can actually like believe it or become enthralled with it, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that. I don't know where it slots in for me. Probably underneath the original trilogy, but again, I like stuff in all the Star Wars movies. I don't like things in all the Star Wars movies, so it's kind of like they're all like one big kind of conglomerate for me. It's like Lord of the Rings. It's so hard for me to like pick. It's like But I don't know. I do get a little tired of like them talking in the Senate and stuff, and then they're like, oh, it's a Star Wars movie, so they have to kind of have a big battle sequence later on. But I think the movies as they go on, especially when we get to my favorite, Episode 3, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have a lot to say about that one. I'm just gonna be like, all right, guys, everybody, shut up for a bit. I got like 25 minutes. I got like a whole like TED talk about Episode 3. I'm so excited for you to watch that one, Joe. I think you,
Jimmy, who would win, Darth Maul or Darth Vader?
That's a question that a lot of people have asked. I'm just gonna tell you. Here's okay. I love Vader. Obviously, I do, but Vader is overpowered.
With the
Force. That's the thing. I think Vader isn't as good of a duelist, maybe, because he's kind of like the big heavy swings. So Maul might do some work, but I still think Vader at the end of the day, he gets pissed off enough and he just kind of crushes him. Like, because I just don't know how Maul's going to do against a Force attack over the top like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that in his prime could pull like spaceships out of the sky. So
yeah, like Vader's ridiculous. And if he were still Anakin at full power, like with his limbs and everything, he would have been like probably almost unstoppable. Yeah.
Well, Anakin is super agile. Like super agile, very strong, very cunning, and
that's a good video. I forget somebody who used to do these where it was like Anakin versus Darth Maul, like stuff like that, like kind of the what if scenarios. Those are really fun to watch. Like people talk it through, because on a duelist level, Maul was one of the best. He was.
When you think like pissed, like you killed my master, like you killed the one that like forced me to be a Jedi.
yeah, oh for sure. And I don't know, but Maul's great. I just think Vader is just, there's something to Force. He's very good.
And how do you guys feel so much about like Qui-Gon really pushing this Anakin thing, like really, really pushing this, like, and then it turns out to be the worst thing for the Jedi, you know?
Joe?
I think to a certain extent he didn't want the boy to stay a slave and not tap into his potential. Sure. So they felt bad for him and wanted to bring him up into something better.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
So I think good intentions, not knowing what it would cause.
Yeah, well, plus he's kind of sensed that, and he really believed in that prophecy, and he's kind of always he's been a rebel with a cause. I've always felt like with Qui-Gon, like he's like, it's screw the Jedi Council, man, and Obi, like I love that Obi's like, hey man, you'd be a master if you just followed the code. He's like, you got a lot to learn, but and I like that he was the one who found him.
He's just a knight.
Yeah, well, he's so technically he is I think he is a Jedi Master. He's like, I don't know if a knight. I think a knight can be an apprentice, or a knight can have an apprentice, or like a Padawan.
Yeah.
But I think he's technically a master. He's just not on the council. Like he's like, I don't want to be this club. This club's weird. Like you could, like Qui-Gon's not just gonna sit in a chair like all the time. Like all those guys are just like just kind of plotting, and he's like, no, I'm gonna go out there and do stuff. But
they're the brains of the operation. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I don't know. They're like the people who wrote the sign that was like, no younglings or Sith allowed. It's like, he's too old. Like, get him out of here. It's like, okay. The whole kidnapping kids at like 2 or 3 is really weird to me. They're like, your kid's Force sensitive and he's gonna come train with us. It's like, what? But yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. No, I like that Qui-Gon did it. I think he foresaw that things were going to happen, and I don't think he cared that the Jedi were going to get messed up. I think he knew stuff like this was going to happen, and he's probably like, "Yep, things need to change. This is getting strange." So good on him, Qui-Gon. You did it. You're the reason the Empire exists, buddy.
I'd like to see it. What happened? What would happen if like that didn't happen?
Or if Qui-Gon would have survived and
trained
him.
How else Palpatine could have made his plans
work. Yeah, there's like I said, there's that biggest Star Wars channel, Star Wars Theory, that does cover stuff like that, where it's like, what if someone didn't die, or what if someone did die, and like, or what if Maul trained Anakin, like kind of theories like that. Stuff. It's interesting. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. So check that guy out. He's great. Yeah, Star Wars Theory, but yeah,
Maul kidnapped Anakin, and yeah.
Well, he after like killing Obi-Wan, like just kind of saying, like, you either working with me or I'm gonna kill you. And Anakin's like, I guess I'll be your apprentice. Because every Sith wants an apprentice to kill their master. Like that's the trick. You're like, oh, you be my apprentice. Like that's what Vader was trying to do. He's like, Luke, you and me, we'll take on the Emperor. It's always that kind of thing. God, I love Vader. Anyway, that's episode 1, everybody. Is there any closing thoughts each of you had? Like, Levi, is there anything else you want to say about this one before we move on?
No, I feel like this is kind of like a Band-Aid. Like one of those movies you gotta kind of rip off and just see it the first time, and then you're like, okay, and then it gives you some perspective on where the series is going. And
sure, yeah,
and it's crazy, Joe. Like how this one, I feel like the sets here are so minimal. You got Naboo, Tatooine, and then you got Coruscant, right?
Yeah.
In space. In the next one, it's just like world blows wide open, and it's like, holy crap! Okay, so many different like races, aliens, droids, everything going on. You're like, oh, okay, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I like it even more. All right.
Well, maybe. Yeah. And Joe, is there anything else you want to say about this? Any other closing thoughts you thought of?
No, not really. I feel like I had the least to say about this one. It was good.
That's all right. I could tell you seem more reserved.
Enjoyable.
That's all right. We actually had some really good community feedback and questions. Oh my gosh, but it's mostly just community feedback from our lovely Twitter followers. And
it's like you guys suck. Like
Levi, I think somebody posted in Discord too. I don't know if you have it open, but this one comes from Ryan Lehman. He says, it's been a long time since I watched The Phantom Menace, but I did mostly enjoy the film besides Jar Jar. And there's a gift that says, the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. And it's Qui-Gon talking to Jar Jar, which is a really good one. And my buddy,
does he say that to him?
He does.
Real quote?
He does say that to him when they first meet. He's like, because he says Misa spec, but he says that I can speak. And Qui-Gon says, like, the ability to speak doesn't make you intelligent, which is a really good burn. Preston Gunderson, hey Preston, he says, the epic duel of Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan, which he wrote all correctly, well done, while John Williams' Duel of the Fate plays one of my favorite in Star Wars scenes, which, again, I remember that being like a continuous cut, but they jump back and forth between the other battles, which I kind of hate. I'm like, just focus on the good stuff. But Levi, what do we have in the Discord?
Let's pull that up here.
Pull it up. I think Missile Mage has something to say, potentially.
I don't think it's particularly a good movie, but it did introduce a bunch of cool things, as previously mentioned. The music, Jedi robes are classic. I actually enjoyed the fight choreography. Both Qui-Gon. I don't see any questions.
Oh no, that's community feedback. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think there was any questions.
No, that's what the feedback. That's sweet feedback. That's what I asked them. My question to them. Which the robes, I guess kind of more started with Obi-Wan in the original trilogy, but more kind of prominent now that you could see, like, oh, that's why he was wearing those robes, is like because the Jedi always kind of wore those robes. It's kind of they're cool, and I love that you get the introduction of taking the robe off in this one, like before they start the fight, like all of them, even Darth Maul's like they are just like that's the fight stance. And Joe, you'll see that in 2 and 3 too. When Jedi and Sith are about to fight, they're like, all right, take the hoods off, like here we go, which I really like. Yeah, man. And just the seeds of Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, just like you're gonna see him blossom eventually. And I think we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes in episode 2 and 3. But that was really fun to talk through, guys. It was really good. I hope you enjoyed it.
Qui-Gon, lines and all that in the next one. So
yeah, it's true. He kind of has to be Qui-Gon, doesn't he? Well, Joe, I'm glad that you liked it. I'm interested to see if you enjoyed the other ones as much. Episode 2 is one that many people don't like, but I think it has some really fun, cool scenes in it as well. And I'm interested to hear what you think about it, because it sounds cool to me. Because actually, Levi and I, one of my favorite memories, or one that sticks out the most, is actually, and I'll probably bring it up next week, but seeing this movie with Levi in theaters, and we'll talk about that more specifically. But never forgetting some really memorable moments, like just being like, like what's happening, kind of mind blowing, especially as a
And your
as a kid.
parents are like, what the hell are they laughing at? They're on drugs or something.
Yeah, we were like 11 or 12 at the time. It was good stuff. It was very good.
Great.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on and talking about this Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is so cool. And we got 2 more to go, and then Joe will be all caught up for the most part, except maybe you missed one of the original or the prequel trilogy or sequel trilogy stuff. There's so much Star Wars.
Yeah, I'll get into the new stuff after the fact.
Yeah. It's all right. You'll get there eventually. It's always sitting there ready for you. Anything else you boys want to say before we sign off for today?
Nah, those are for me, man.
All
Yeah,
right, cool.
no.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you ever have a question or you want to write in a review about any of the previous Star Wars we talked about, or, episode 2 and 3 and onwards here, just tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast at any of us. I'm at Go Critical or at JimmyGood013, or you can tweet at Lever_627, or you can tweet at Levi at Levi Fletcher. I took all of them for myself. I'm greedy, baby. I did it. I'm sorry,
Well
boys.
said.
Thank you very much. That's Lever just like Beaver, only with an L. It's Levi just like the jeans, only with an L. That's how both those work.
James Bond.
It's only James with an L, Jimmy with an L. Anyway, we do have a Patreon if you want to support us and this show. We do appreciate that. Or just subscribe here, tell a friend, that helps. Or join our Discord and talk more about Star Wars, because honestly, I just love talking with you guys about it. So please let us know what you think about Phantom Menace in the comments here or on Twitter, because I want to talk about it, even though guys, it's over 20 years that movie's been out now. Isn't that nuts? Like, I was thinking about that. I was watching, like, oh my goodness. Like,
well, yeah, and Attack of the Clones came out in 2002, and it's 2020.
So it was every 3 years, and then 2005 was Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What's the next one called?
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to. Yeah, I like mysterious. Like, I think some of the prequel trilogies has some of the coolest names. Like the Phantom Menace sounds so cool. Like,
oh yeah,
what? Like, or Attack of the Clones. You're like, what? Like Revenge of the Sith. There's like this little story in the subtitle. I'm like, what? Cool.
Yeah, I feel like the ones now got a little lazy. Like, I like The Force Awakens, but The Last Jedi and then The Rise of Skywalker, like, really? Come on.
Yeah, they're not as compelling. But yeah, which doesn't necessarily translate into good or bad, I guess, for movies. We don't know. I really like Empire Strikes Back is also a fun one. That's a great name for a sequel, right? Because you're like, oh, the bad guys are coming back. Like, they're like, we're fighting. Great name for that movie too. Anyway, thank you, Legionnaires, for listening to us. We appreciate you. Love and hugs, and remember to adapt and overcome. And may the Force be with you always. Yes. I don't know why I did the Jedi mind trick. I just did it. We're stopping the show. There we go.